I'm just advocating weekly communion. I'm not even advocating that initially. I'm advocating that we want communion, that we're like mad if we don't get it. And I would with that elevate the preaching of the actual text of the Bible, word and sacrament, to be conjoined, so that we want these things and we're mad if we don't get them. Because that's not what we are now. We're not. We're okay if we don't get them, as long as we had our club meeting. And let me add this thing too. Two pieces here. So this last week, before I left on vacation, the last Sunday, the text that we had in the Old Testament lectionary that I was doing was Esther. And it wasn't just Esther, it's also had 1 Peter and a text from Matthew on it. And as I was looking them over again on Saturday night to get ready to preach, I said to my wife, dear goodness, I could go an hour on this easy. Easy. And I don't mean like a written out hour-long thesis statement paper that you would be falling asleep. I'm talking about it. I don't think you'd fall asleep. Let's just say it that way. I don't think you'd fall asleep. There's so much there. And there's so much story, so much truth, so much overlap between them, so much direct application to who we are now. I go an hour easy. Maybe even 2. But I said to her, I go an hour easy. And then I said, isn't it weird that I can't? That if I did, I would get in trouble with my congregation. Isn't that? Now forget, I'm not saying, St. Paul members, if you're watching this, I'm not saying I need to go an hour. Don't get hung up on Fisk wants to go an hour now. I find it interesting that if I did, it would be a problem. And our problem would be, today, pastor taught too much of the Word of God to us in such a way that mattered too much to us, and it took away from what? So then, out of happenstance, on my vacation, we have a lovely friend who lives in California. A friend of my parents, really, but she's become a friend of our family as well. My parents call her grandma, all this stuff. And my parents don't call her grandma. My kids call her grandma. And she's a really sweet lady. Loves the Bible. Not a Lutheran. Goes to a non-denominational church. I keep trying to convince her she's a Baptist. She doesn't really want to admit it. But her pastor preaches 45 minutes to an hour every week. Now, granted, they don't have a sacramental service at all. So it's, there are things in the way. Problematic. I'm not saying he's great. In fact, the more she says he's straight from the Bible. No worries. I don't want her to hear. She's like, he's straight from the Bible. Well, what's he preaching through? Revelation. Oh, really? Right from the text, huh? Yeah, absolutely. How many verses a week? 12. 12. Wow. Because there's a lot in Revelation. That's impressive. So, and we started digging into it a little bit, and it's like, yeah, it's all about Israel and what's going on over there right now today. I'm like, yeah, that's not the Bible. So that's a different thing. If that guy walked in and preached for 15 minutes, he'd get in trouble. And they would say, you didn't give us enough of the Word of God today. Regardless of whether he's actually given them the Word of God, they'd be mad. They'd feel like they were gypped. And we have the other point of view as a church body. Why? Don't tell me I'm advocating church growth because I'm asking this question. Don't tell me I'm trying to take away your liturgy because I'm asking this question. What I'm asking is why the Word of God doesn't matter to us. We say it does, but then it better fit in my my schedule. Why? And I don't think that's German. I don't. I mean, the needing a schedule is German. That's definitely German. But yeah. So you follow me on this? Huh? By the way, I did preach half an hour on that text. I've been in this Old Testament lectionary going 25 to 30. I keep waiting for the hammer. I do. I haven't gotten it for a while. I pushed them from 15 to 25 when I first came in, and I got it a little bit at that point. There were some complaints about blood sugar, that if you didn't get out soon enough, you would need more food. And I get that. I believe I said something along the lines of that's interesting. That is important. I think the best thing to do would be to bring a snack. If you have a blood sugar issue ever, right, you need to have food with you. It's important, period, regardless of whether you're at church or not. But uh, it is a thing. I mean, if you're going to preach an hour, forget it, half an hour. I did half an hour. A half an hour divine service one, you're looking at an hour and a half long service. Boom. And that is tough to fit two of those and an hour long Bible study into a Sunday morning. Yeah, kind of almost impossible. So there's a thing there. So to change this would mean changing our culture. We're not gonna, right? We're not gonna. Why? Why are we not gonna? Why wouldn't we even think about it? Can you imagine the voters' assembly? If you've been to one, I know you can. Can you imagine even trying to have this conversation? Like, we would just yell about it for 15 minutes and then it'd be over and we'd never talk about it again and nothing would happen. So here's some of what I'm advocating, by the way, for those of you who really want to know. I think that if we are wise as serpents and innocent as doves, we can actually learn how business really works and gradually use the tool that we already have that we just use poorly to become better at what we are supposed to be doing, to actually sell what we're selling. And I don't mean Jesus as a toaster, but I do mean that when you're talking about ideas, you either buy it or you don't buy it, right? And so it has to be sold or not sold. You might find a glimmering golden, beautiful thing in the middle of a pile in a antique store somewhere, and it's only $5, and you're going to spend, and it's worth $1 million. You might have that happen, but it's not a good way to like spread your message. Yeah? And I think as pastors, we can learn to do this within the congregation first, that we learn how to use the system to gradually develop a culture that does want more of what we actually are,